Today's book that we're going to review is J. Bronowski's The Ascent of Man. This is an old book. It's a classic. It was written in 1973, 2 years after I was born. This book is from a video series. I wouldn't look for it. The quality is so low that our modern eyes would object to it. But the book itself is absolutely fantastic. It talks about man's evolution, technological evolution, going from a wandering nomadic people to the modern people that we are today, where we start in the plains of Africa, a nomadic people that simply wakes up every day with a prehistoric brain and simply moves on each and every day being the same, until we start to figure out how to hunt more efficiently. We are able to learn how to use the beast of burden. Much of the animal is literally made into materials that are going to end up creating our world, such as suin, to finally having enough time in surplus to have art. Once we learn how to use animalia as a tool for transportation, for food, we end up having an agrarian society. And page after page is just a story of man's evolution, technological evolution, where we end up getting into and I'll continue to flip through here. And then mathematics as a way to keep track of the world that we live in, to make sense of the nearly chaotic systems that are out there, that will influence how we're able to build, how we're able to see architecture. And of course, the starry skies, making sense of the planets as they go round in a clockwise universe. And that clockwise universe was created by some deity, but we no longer need to think of that deity as being just a creator, but more of an engineer. Marks. Sculpture. Then we have the birth of Einstein, who changes the very nature of how we understand reality. The nature of time, the nature of space is altered. There's the young Einstein. By the way, all of these are photographs. None of these are digital. We didn't have digital cameras back then. Much of the artwork in here is hand-drawn. And there's beauty in this. And then there's Niels Bohr talking with Albert Einstein in one of the most famous pictures about quantum mechanics. And then we go into how we live and how we make rules and how we develop societies. And science is based in democracy in many ways. Not absolutely, of course. Science is not really a democracy, but it goes into some depth about that. And as I flip through here, we get into the evolution of life and what does it mean to have different features and traits to live in this world. We also have tribes that still existed at the time, and some of our preconceptions of different races. And then, of course, going into the laboratory, the ladder of creation. This is really going to be talking about understanding the chemical basis of life. This is, I don't have my glasses on, but I imagine that's Stanley Miller's picture. The Salk Institute, no, it's not Stanley Miller, but regardless. And then there's, again, Einstein and Bohr talking about the world within, and the Solvay conference. And then we end up having, trying to understand atomic theory, and then we end up making the bomb. And this is the very first picture of DNA with X-ray crystallography. And of course, we've got Carl Friedrich Gauss and some of the great scientists of the nuclear age. There's Szilard and Fermi. Don't mind my writing, and I always write in my books. And generation after generation. Of course, we've got Mendel, and we're going to be talking a lot about inheritance and sex and the behavior that makes that possible. And while this is really dated biologically, it's still an absolutely wonderful book. And how does that tie into the other sciences? And this page right here might summarize the entire book. Let me go back to it. Here we have a picture of the great scientists. We've got James Watson up here, Louis Pasteur, Einstein, Madame Curie, Boltzmann, Niels Bohr. We've got Max Born and John von Neumann. And finally talks about the long childhood. And that's a metaphor for our development as a society. Again, handwritten drawings, outdated clothing, but an absolutely marvelous book that I would encourage all of you to read as maybe one of your first. You might not have a lot of time, so read 2 pages a day, 2 pages a night, something like that. And it does come in softback and a hardback cover, and they're incredibly cheap at this point. A book from 1973 you can get for just a few bucks at this point. But I highly encourage you to read that book. So please enjoy.